In this lesson I'm going to teach you a little bit more about layers. We've already gone over a few little things, but if we take open a photo, this palm tree, you may have noticed that over here in the layers palette, sometimes it'll say background. And basically, you have background layers and then regular layers. You can only have one background, and you can't change the stacking order of a background. A background is what it is. It's the background. You can't change its blending or opacity settings, but you can convert a background to a regular layer. And the way you do that is you go Layer, New, Layer from Background. Then you can also do the reverse. Let's try this. I'll show you what I mean. You can name it what you want, put whatever color you want. The opacity level you could change there. See, and you just convert it. Now it no longer says background, it says layer 0. Then you can also take a layer and background from layer. See? So you can do either one. Now you noticed that you have this eye icon, which means that layer is visible. Now let's pull open a new blank sheet that we're going to stack this palm tree on top of. First of all, let's see how big this palm tree is, how big that the width of it is. So if we go to Image, the width and the length, Image size, we can see the pixel dimensions as well as the size in inches. So it's 5 by 7.5. So I want to make a white background to put it over top of that's bigger than that. So I'm going to add 3 to the 5, which will be 6, 7, 8, and then 8, 9, 10.5. So 8 by 10.5 is what I'm going to make the new one. Notice the resolution here we can change also. Now we're going to go File, New, and we'll do, what did I say? 8 by 10.5, which I already have in here. And you can choose how many bits you want, background contents, so on and so forth. Alright, so now we have this is another document under Windows, so we have two, remember, the palm tree and this blank. But what I want to do is I want to put the palm tree on top, so I minimize the blank, and now we have two minimized pictures. Now if I use the Move tool, grab the palm tree and move it over, perfect. Now I'm going to close the palm tree and not save the changes. Now I'm dealing with my layer, the white background with the palm tree over it. Now, so we have a background layer which is white, and we have the regular layer, 1. So if we click the eye icon, that means that layer is no longer visible. And if you remember, whatever layer you have highlighted, that's the one you're making the modifications to. So you can do that, and whenever you see this checkered background, that means it's clear. There is no color. So now we're just looking at layer 1, which is the palm trees, and not the background. Now we're back to seeing both. You can also lock a layer, and I'll show you in a little bit about linking layers. Locking it just means it's protected. Now what I want to do with this is I want to take the saturation out of this palm tree shot, turn it into a black and white. So we make sure that layer is selected, and I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. And so I'm going to take the saturation out entirely, which will turn it into a black and white. And I want to add a layer effect. First, let's create turn this background into an actual layer rather than a background layer. Alright, now what I want to do is create a gradient. Now I'm just looking at the background layer. A gradient for this back layer. So I'm going to choose the gradient tool, which has the paint bucket below it. And up here under your tool options, I'm going to choose foreground to transparent. And then I chose the color here, which is like a brownish color. And then we're given these other options, which linear to gradient, which is what I want to use, rather than the radial or the angle or reflected. You can kind of see examples of what it would do there in those little icons. I'll leave it at color burn, and opacity we'll leave for now there. I'm just simply going to drag from the bottom to the top. And nothing showed. Why is that? The reason that it didn't work is we had this at soft or color burn. I think we had, yeah, color burn. We want multiply under the mode. So now if we drag from the bottom to the top, we are going from this brownish color to a clear. And now I'm going to create a new layer as a background layer here that I'm going to make black. And we'll do up here background from layer. Now that's black. And now what we're going to do is adjust the opacity of this so we see a little bit more of that black background. Alright. Now what we'll do is we'll add, well, before we add an effect, I want that background to shine through a little bit, just a tiny bit. And now, and that I adjusted the opacity of layer 1, which is the palm trees. Now I'm going to add an effect to that layer. And just so you see where I'm going here, I'm going to move this over. Alright, so I chose effect down there. Go to effect, drop shadow. And I wanted a bigger drop shadow than that. That looks about right. There we go. You notice how the drop shadow now looks a little thicker. And I want it to go up here. Well, so you can choose which direction you want the drop shadow. There, that's what I wanted. So it showed up here and down there. Now I'm going to add a bevel to it. Now you notice the actual palm tree picture has a little bit of a bevel. I want it a little bit bigger. Oops. I was adjusting the drop shadow. So the bevel, make sure the bevel is highlighted. And now you can move the bevel up a little, like so. Alright. Now you see it has this nice bevel to it. And once you get it how you want, there's all sorts of different effects you can put on here. But that's what I wanted to show you, how we can get a little bit of a shadow there. And as you can see, the effects here are nested under the layer, so you can minimize them so you don't see them. We can rearrange the layers, stack them in a different order, and if you notice, it changes things entirely. And by adjusting, you know what, I'm not really satisfied with this gray. I would rather have it black to the brown. So I am going to delete that layer, delete this layer. Well, you know what, I'm going to leave that there for now and just create a new one. And now this, I'm going to go from black to that brown. I think this might look better. Yes, 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 that's what I wanted. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that shadow that we put on there up here. Because the shadow now is up in the black section, I'd rather it be down there in the brown, like so. Get it how you like it, like so. Alright. And now we could put some lettering on there if we wanted. But I just wanted to show you the idea of stacking layers and adding some effects to some layers. Now we have a background layer which we're not even seeing, which we could delete, and this nice gradient. Now what we can do is take layer 1 here, the palm trees, and lower the opacity just a little bit, and now we'd be able to see a little bit of that orange shine through. So this is a little more transparent now, so you can adjust it depending on how clear you want it. But now it looks three-dimensional.